Hi everyone, welcome back to my sewing studio. If you've been following me for any length of time, you know that I have a granddaughter on the way, and this is going to be my first grandchild. Well, just about a week and a half ago, I was in Illinois visiting my daughter. I was there for the shower, and so today I am going to show you everything that I've made, and I've made quite a bit. So in this video, I'm going to show you everything I made, and of course I will have links to all the patterns and everything that I used. But first, let me introduce myself. If you don't know me, I am Lisa. I am the owner and designer behind Pink Hollybush Patterns, which is a line of children's sewing patterns, most of which include an option for smocking and most of which are designed for knits. However, I do have two grown daughters that I sew for as well as for myself. So here on my channel, we talk about all things sewing and smocking. Today, we are particularly talking about sewing for babies. So first, let me say as we dive into this, if this is something you're interested in, I have a whole playlist with all kinds of videos and different pattern links, a lot of which are free at different designs on sewing for babies, and I will link to that above. Okay, with that said, let's delve into what I created for my granddaughter, who we hope will be arriving safely soon. Not quite soon, she's actually due right before Christmas. So the first thing that I made for her is this adorable welcome home pink knit set of little trousers and top. And the welcome home pattern is actually a Pink Hollybush pattern. So if you see it there, if it's not too shiny, and yes, there's the cover design. So I made this little set in the pink knit, and I used a Liberty lawn for the ruffle and the trim on it, and for the booties as well, which is really fun. Now, Welcome Home comes in 3 sizes, 1, 2, 3. Essentially 2 newborn sizes and then a 3-month size. And the newborn sizes divide up. There is, let's see on here, it's by weight, and also actually by vertical trunk, if that's something you haven't heard of. I'll explain what that is in a minute. But the 2 newborn sizes, there's the size 1 is for babies 6 to 8 pounds, and then the size 2 is for babies 8 to 11 pounds, and then that size 3 is essentially a 3-month size. So for this pink outfit, my babies were kind of on the smaller size, and so I made this in the smallest size for her, hoping for my daughter's sake that she's in that 6 to 8 pounds and not the 8 to 11, but who knows. I think even if she is larger, because it's the 2 pieces, it would still fit her. Now, when I mentioned this also comes in vertical, I give you the dimensions in vertical trunk size. If you're not familiar with that, the way you determine vertical trunk is if you have the baby that you can measure, you take a tape measure, you go from the shoulder down the back, up through the crotch and back to the shoulder, and that's the vertical trunk measurement. And the reason I give that to you is because at least my kids always outgrew their clothes in that vertical trunk measurement, not in the length of the sleeves or the pants, but in the body. And so it gives you that body measurement. So that's the first thing I made for her, including those fun little booties. And by the way, if you want to try the Welcome Home pattern, I have a whole a series of 3 videos here on YouTube for you to look at that walk you through making each piece of the Welcome Home pattern. So a video for the top, a video for the trousers and then a video for the booties, and I will link to that here as well. Okay, the second thing I made for her was I actually used the trousers pattern from Welcome Home, but I made a top with Little Honey. Now, Little Honey is this pattern here, and it comes with the top in two lengths, one that's shorter to go over the bloomers or a full-length dress. So I actually used the length that is designed to go over the bloomers, but because my granddaughter is going to be born right before Christmas, and hopefully right before Christmas, she might come right after, but around that Christmas time in Illinois where it's cold, I made this long sleeve version of Little Honey, and I used the trousers rather than the bloomers for her for this outfit. And I just love how it turned out. By the way, the trousers are actually made out of a brushed poly. It's sort of the first time I worked with it, and I do have a video on that if that's fabric you haven't worked with a lot, and just some guidance on that, and I will link to that as well. Okay, the third thing I made for her is this beautiful blanket. Now, this blanket was a course I took, I had started it many years ago. The designer of the blanket is Jan Curtin. She's a wonderful teacher from Australia. She was here in the States. She came to Connecticut, and I was so fortunate to be able to take this class with her for this blanket, which is called Bunnies in the Berry Patch. Now, I will put a link. Jan is not coming to the U.S. anymore to teach classes. However, her designs and her kits are available from the Cruel Goblin. That's the name of the shop. From us in Australia. They do ship internationally. I will put a link below. I have to be honest, this is on wool cashmere blanketing, which is gorgeous, but expensive. So, but I will link below to that. They also sell Jan's designs. Her company was known as Windflower Embroidery, so they sell her designs, and they sell thread and the velour fabric that she uses for the designs of the animals, and they sell all of that. That is not that expensive, so if you want to try this, but you know, the wool blanketing is a little out of your price range, you might want to consider that as an option. Now, if you want to see a little bit of what's involved and the techniques, because as you can see here, the bunny is raised, which is fun, and actually stuffed. I have another video in which I use this technique. And the design is free for a little duck, and I will link to that. So you might want to go grab that design. You also can see what's involved in how you create those three-dimensional animals to put on the blanket. Okay. Another resource, if you're interested in these types of blankets, there are regularly Patterns and Inspirations magazine, which comes out of Australia, and Inspirations also put out a book called The World's Most Beautiful Blankets, and I will put links to both of those below. Again, that's not going to help you with the supplies, but both of those would give you instructions on how to do a blanket similar to the one I did here. When I finished doing the embroidery on this blanket, it's actually bound in a cotton velour that I picked up at Fabric Mart in Pennsylvania. I will link to Fabric Mart. And I used this wonderful tutorial on how to do a self-binding blanket. It went together very quickly, and I will link to that tutorial as well. So, you know, I anticipate that my daughter will use the blanket probably to tuck around her in the stroller or in the car seat just to keep her warm. I do want her to use it, even though it has all this embroidery on it. I just wanted to do it for her, and I love how it turned out. I hope it's something that my granddaughter will love, and I do not care if she drags it all over the place. It is her blanket. Okay, the next thing I made are two different baby's breath buntings. Now, baby's breath is a pattern for a smocked bunting from, and the pattern was designed by Judith Marquis. I will put a link to the pattern below for you. I do carry it in the shop. I also have a full tutorial on my blog on how to put this pattern together. And I offer kits for the heart version. I don't have the little orange flower is a flannel, and I don't have that fabric anymore. The wonderful thing about this pattern, well, there's a couple. One, it can be done with either a woven or a knit. The kit I offer is, the heart fabric is a knit. The other one that I'm showing you here, the little orange flowered one, that's done on a flannel. It's not hard to smock because the armholes are inserted below, or the sleeves are inserted below the smocking. So you put it through the pleater as just a nice rectangular piece of fabric, which is great. You don't have to go over any seams or deal with that. So one of the reasons I love it. Another reason I love this pattern is just the practicality of it. You can make it as a gown or you can make it as a bunting. Now, in both cases, I've made it as a bunting. And part of the reason I've done that is, again, it's going to be it's going to be cold in Illinois, and we want her to stay warm. My kids, when they were babies, in fact, my daughter, who's going to be having the baby, is my oldest, and I had a number of those gowns with the drawstring at the bottom. And every time I put my daughter in one of those to sleep in, when I would go in, when she would wake up in the middle of the night, I would go in and I would find the gown was completely up under her underarms. And then, of course, I felt really bad because, she was cold and crying because of that. And so I stopped using the drawstring gowns. When I had my second daughter, I tried it again because I thought, well, maybe it's just my first one who kicks all the time and gets those gowns up here. Well, I put it on my second daughter, same exact thing. She had that right up here. And I was like, that's it. All those drawstring gowns went in the donate pile the next day. So for that reason, I don't know if other babies do that, but for that reason, I've never been a huge fan of the drawstring gowns, and I like the bunting that I can just sew the bottom on, and I know it's going to keep their little feet and legs warm. And so I've used this pattern and made both the flannel version and the knit version with the bunting on the bottom, but you don't have to. You could leave it as an open gown if you would prefer to do that. Okay. The next thing, of course, I had to make her a smocked dress. So here is her first smocked dress. And you will notice that this is a smocked from the shoulder dress. Again, I have a whole video on how I did that. I will link to it. The actual pattern I used is from an old Australian Smocking magazine, but in the video I show you how to adapt Lee to this method, and I'll put a link to the Lee pattern below that you could use, so you could do a smocked from the shoulder dress. Now I made a 3-month size, and this is out of a brushed flannel twill. I did that because you know, I figure with her being born right around Christmas, with unfortunately with COVID and with now all the flu and the viruses sort of taking off and still being around, I really don't anticipate that they will be taking her to church or any place that she would be in a dress until she's probably in that 3-month size. So that's why I'm not making her a newborn smock dress. I went right to the 3-month size. I will say the one I used, the pattern, the Australian Smocking, I think is a little bit on the large size too, and so I'm sure that she will be a full 3 months probably before she's in the dress. All right, well, the last thing I made her is this Sweetie Pie romper. Now, Sweetie Pie is also a pink holly bush pattern. It is not out yet. If you are watching this video in real time, it will be coming out January of 2023. If you like the pattern and you're interested in it, I really encourage you. I will put a link below to my newsletter. Sign up for the newsletter so you get first notice about when the pattern comes out. Of course, I will be running a sale when it does come out, so that way you can know all about it. It likewise will have, it's smocked here as you can see, but it also will have a non-smocked, just gathered version. It is designed for a knit, and I think it's just going to be a really wonderful and practical pattern for baby garments. So I hope that you've enjoyed seeing what I've made for my granddaughter. I hope this gives you some inspiration to go out there and sew some wonderful baby garments for an upcoming baby that's arriving in your life, or just garments for friends, because I love sewing for babies. Make sure to check out my entire Sewing for Baby playlist and the pink holly bush patterns. And if you like this video, please give it a thumbs up and subscribe. It helps me to bring more videos like this to you. And in the meantime, happy sewing.